Hi, Dad. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
When did your relationship with alcohol begin?
My first big experience with alcohol was when I was probably 11, and my elder brother, for various reasons, raided the drinks cabinet, my parents' drinks cabinet, and God knows how much spirits he drank. My parents were out for the day, me and my brother were home alone, and he raided the drinks cabinet and drank quite a lot of, I think it was cherry brandy and vodka and various concoctions. And anyway, he ended up having to have his stomach pumped. He's taken to the local hospital. It was a very traumatic experience for me. I was left on my own in the house as my parents took him off in the ambulance. When they came back from wherever they were, he was practically dead. And they took him, fortunately, they came back in time, so he got his stomach pumped and he returned home that evening. But it was very traumatic. And you would have thought that would have put me and him off alcohol for good, but sadly it didn't. And then when I got to be about 13, 14, my father thought it was a good idea to take us down the pub. So we started drinking with my dad from I was about, I'd say, 14. And we thought it was great because we thought we were bonding with our dad. But if I'd taken you guys out to the pub when you were 14, I think I'd have been kicked out of house and home by your mum. But I think both of us were pretty insecure, shy little boys. And suddenly there was this magic potion introduced into your system that made you feel confident, made you feel great. Suddenly you weren't shy. Suddenly you felt that you had things to say. And I can remember feeling sort of bonded with on those afternoons. It wasn't all the time. It was maybe once every so often, once a month, I don't know. But I felt feeling bonded with my dad and my brother through being moderately intoxicated. And the hometown that I was in, there was never once when I was at school, then I started drinking every weekend. Never once were we ever asked for ID. So, and there were 40 pubs. I think there was the most pubs in my hometown per capita. It was a real drinking culture. And I think I was kind of in the vanguard of it in my year. So I was 15 and I was getting served in pubs. It was the one thing I was really good at was drinking. I was better at drinking than I was at anything else. So go down the pub, have 5 pints of Guinness. I remember when I was about 15, my friend could only manage 1 or 2. And there were girls that probably I thought were impressed, but they were actually probably appalled by how much I was drinking at a very early age. So my drinking then progressed. My drinking career progressed 15, 16. And I was regularly going to school doing A-levels, hungover. That was just part of that. It was just part of my life. Drinking was just part of my life. And yeah, I don't think we were ever challenged. If you'd gone into one of the local pubs in my hometown in the mid-80s, some of the pubs were just absolutely ram-packed with 16, 17-year-olds. Nobody. I know no one ever got thrown out. We could behave how we wanted. We were obviously just keeping those pubs in good business. So it was all kind of when madness is normalized and everyone's doing it, it doesn't seem to be insanity, but of course it is hugely insane. And so therefore I think a lot of people my generation now who are in their mid-50s, early 60s are, suffering chronic ill health from 1980s booze consumption.
You said how drinking lots you saw as an impressive act, drinking lots and lots and lots, that it would catch the attention of women or your mates. Why isn't it not that taking lots and lots of something that inebriates you and makes you impulsive and irrational and kind of go a bit crazy, why is that seen as impressive and why is that seen as cool?
I don't think it is seen as impressive, but in your sort of addled, warped, deluded teenage brain, you kind of think it is. And there's the Darwinian thing of particularly young men trying to show, look, I'm so healthy, my genes are so good, I can do something that's actually pretty dangerous and I can just shrug it off.
So that's why when people go off to university, they're showing their independence, becoming adults, they want to show I can drink as much as I want. I'm free.
Well, you're attracted to sort of dangerous activities because somehow you feel that you're displaying your actual intrinsic health. I don't know. I mean, that's a Darwinian theory, which I think pretty bears up. But I can remember when I was 17, I got my girlfriend at the time bought me a bottle of whiskey and a packet of Gitan cigarettes. Though I remember taking a photograph of them. I thought, Christ, this is so cool. I've got a girlfriend who's 2 years older than me, and my two hobbies are drinking and smoking.
That's cool. That was cool in your head.
I just thought this is great because the feeling you get from it being intoxicated was better than the alternative for me, because I had a lot of anger issues, and there was a lot of stuff going on in my family that wasn't articulated. No, we didn't speak about stuff, and it was an escape. Obviously you're drinking because it's an alternative reality you're living in, but of course it when you're introducing that kind of dangerous substance to a young mind, I think that the jury is basically saying that you shouldn't really drink until you're 25, when your brain's finished forming. I was drinking at 15, 16, 17, and I wasn't on my own. I seem to be in, talk about social pressures. I was the kind of kid who was putting people under social pressure. I wasn't under social pressure. I was probably the drink bully at that time. And by the time I got to university, I was a hardened drinker, and the booze was so cheap. We're talking about university in the late 80s. It was £1 a pint. The drinks companies were targeting university students. It was fun. It was glamorous. God knows. Well, we can talk about it in a minute. God knows what you'd be if you weren't a drinker. I mean, you must have just been cowering in your room because of the madness and mayhem that would be going on at university. You go to university to drink and have a wild time, right? And then you maybe read a few books to justify your existence. This is how I was. I mean, if you were sensible and doing a sensible degree and working hard, that was great. But for me and people around me, it was just a 3-year drink binge with writing a few essays on Charles Dickens to justify your existence. But you yourself decided before you went to university, having never drunk, that you were going to remain teetotal. But I remember you came to me and said, I'm very worried about the social pressure. So you can describe the difference between yourself and what I've just described.
I remember getting Snapchat group chat groups where you could buy tickets for big drinking events, big nightclubs, parties. That was the hype, that you were getting hyped up for the Freshers week, which would be lots and lots of drinking. And I guess it was heightened because of the pandemic, where people spend their Freshers indoors in their rooms and very low key. So maybe
you went the year after.
I went the year after, so it was really throwing all of that normal Freshers experience down our throats of drinking and partying. And I hadn't drank up to that point, but I thought, is this kind of the rite of passage of, like, it was a small thought of like, is there anything I could get from drinking? And then you recommended Alan Carr's Easy Way to Control Alcohol. But Alan Carr says right at the beginning, that was just a way of getting people to buy the book. It's not about controlling alcohol. It's about stopping alcohol consumption. And a lot of what Alan Carr says in the book is quite radical. And if you say it to people think, well, you're crazy. Like I've talked to people about it. And I say, alcohol is poison. There's no difference between an alcoholic and a normal drinker. Also, it's a slippery slope down into being an alcoholic. All these things are quite kind of controversial ideas to, if you to say that to a normal drinker, I'm drinking poison, I don't need this, it's harming me, it's a slippery slope towards it's just a slippery slope towards more and more kind of intoxication, maybe dangerous behavior, misery. There's all very maybe debatable ideas, but they're very kind of strong. Yeah. And that's what was in my head. That's what I learned from that book.
I think one of the key things that people don't realize, and I admire you for not drinking. And I said, if I had my life again, I wouldn't go near it. I'm still, I still drink, but it's, I believe some hardened alcoholics would say I'm deluded, that I think that I'm, I drink once a week or once every 2 weeks, and because I still find it pleasurable. I probably am going to quit, but at the moment I still kind of enjoy it. But I think the most important thing to realize is, particularly when you're young, having anxiety about meeting people, because a lot of it is a lubricant, isn't it, for social interaction.
So that was the thing, because I, at sixth form, I had severe social anxiety. And going into university, it was almost like, this is my chance to prove to myself that I can talk to people and be confident. And I felt like drinking would just be a shortcut to social interaction I didn't want to take. I wanted to see if I can develop those social skills without that lubricant. And usually, most people at university, they drink in order to break the ice and get into feeling close and feeling as a group, and feeling like you found your place at university through drink. So I guess when you don't drink, it's a bit more of it's a longer journey to find the right people, and you're not just in groups. You have to kind of like pick people a little bit more.
Indeed, and I think that the muscle that I probably until my sort of like late 20s, 30s, I had never exercised the muscle of, in a sober way, trying to interact with another human being. Because again, from a Darwinian point of view, we are these apes, and we have evolved to have a slight fear and trepidation of meeting strangers. That's a natural thing. Of course, that stranger isn't going to kill us, stab us, or try and nick our home generally. But to have a slight anxiety when you meet somebody you don't know is hardwired in our brain. Obviously, we can teach ourselves to overcome that. But if you're dousing yourself with alcohol, and you just immediately, as you say, shortcut into let's be friends, let's be crazy together, you're not developing that ability to talk to people. And I didn't have that ability because I'd always been drinking.
Well, I definitely see social skills as a real skill you've got to learn. It doesn't matter who you are. Maybe you're shy or socially anxious or confident. You know, if we were all confident and good at chatting to people, then we wouldn't be drinking as much. So it's obvious that young people do have a bit of insecurity with socializing because they use it as a lubricant. Maybe they don't see it as that. People see it as, oh, it's just a bit of fun. But really it is just to lubricate social conversation.
But watching you push through from being totally socially anxious and having to, go and see a therapist, and it was a really difficult time. I thought, my God, if he discovers drink, he could easily just really discover it and go, wow, that has solved all of my problems. I'm suddenly confident. I've suddenly can speak to people I don't know. I can be effusive, and you can talk to girls more. And everyone's doing it. You're not left out because everybody's doing it. But I was very pleased that you yourself managed to avoid that and became actually more determined. No, I'm gonna solve my anxiety about talking to other people on my own without taking a shortcut, which actually isn't a shortcut. It ends up making it worse. I mean, alcohol basically doesn't do anything for you whatsoever, apart from tries to kill you and stealing all. It's like having a friend that's trying to kill you and steal all your money, and on numerous occasions humiliate you and generally isolate you. I mean, that's the irony of it. You think that you're being a part of the crowd and you're being one of the gang, but the more you drink, the more isolated you can become. And so the people that you're drinking with gradually might grow up and go, actually, and they stop drinking. So then you can end up just sitting on your own in a pub going, where is everybody? Because they've all basically realized that you can't function. You can't really function if you're drinking heavily. You just can't.
There are two thoughts. There's two things I want to say, but okay. So basically, you do feel a bit lonely, in the sense of when I was going to my campus to do my work, usually like on a Monday or something, the chats would be always about the nightclubs or the nights out people had, and so the conversations revolve around the events that happened while drinking, all the craziness, all the shenanigans, and it's kind of like this alternate world, this different world that I was not part of at all. Going out partying, nightclubs, drinking, pubs, groups, like it was it seemed like most people. I mean, I know there were a few people who were playing board games, but most people, their social life revolved around drinking in my course. So that was the conversation, and it immediately shuts you out because you can't relate to it. I have no relation to it because I've never gone to a proper
Yeah,
nightclub.
and you don't
or
even like
drank.
noisy pubs, or you don't like loud
I
music,
don't
which
like
is
loud
also
music.
you couldn't go along with them and
No.
enjoy yourself.
If they say, oh, you can still enjoy it sober, I'm like, no, because I hate that loud music, and I bet you do too. But the drink maybe makes it less. I mean, I really don't believe that people really enjoy loud, awful, bombastic music. Music. I'm using that term.
My experience of
noise.
nightclubs when I was at university is basically screaming and shouting at people and not being able to have any kind of conversation. So just sort of drinking your way through it.
So my thing is, why do young people need such overstimulation? Because the nightclub is loud noise, loud, bright flashing lights, loads of people screaming, shouting, talking, drinking heavily. Such overstimulation from all angles. Probably lots of smell as well, sweat and
you can't possibly get to know anybody in that situation. So people go to get off with each other, I guess. But you're getting off. You can't be getting to know somebody. You might be getting off with someone without knowing them. But that in itself is a fairly depressing experience.
I kind of just see it as escapism completely. Escaping from yourself.
So you had to do a lot of
craziness.
you had to do a lot of which is what if I'd at university and I'd spent more time sitting on my own, literally pulling myself together. I if I'd had somebody when I was your age, 19, 20, 21 at college, just that phrase, pull yourself together, because my mind is everywhere. I want to be there. I want to be with that person. I want to be doing this. I want to be getting out. How do I get out of it? How do I get out of reality? That was all I was thinking about. What can I smoke? What can I drink? I moved on to cocaine and ecstasy. I was doing acid. Anything I could get my hand on in order to give me the next escape from reality. And it was building and building and building. Whereas yourself, people would say, well, you're not making the most of university because you're spending a lot of time being who you are, which was solitary. But that is far preferable to what I was doing, I would suggest, because the loneliness and the anxiety I got from my use of drugs was a far more terrible experience than what you were going through, because you were learning how to be peaceful on your own, which is building a skill.
Yeah, I did have conversations with people about drinking, and because I don't really hold back, I say, oh, I don't drink because I've read this book and blah 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 blah. Instead of just saying, I don't really like drinking, that would have kind of closed it, because you're just not into it. But because I actually gave reasons for why I don't drink, I got into conversations, and I remember getting to a conversation where I really had to kind of justify why I don't drink. And you never have to justify why you don't take heroin or cocaine or that kind of thing or anything else. That's just like the default. But I feel like if you don't drink, that's a novelty, and you have to explain why you don't.
When alcohol is 10 times more, I think it's 10,000 people died from alcohol-related diseases in the UK in 2024, and I think for heroin it was about 1,400. So
if you look at those statistics, that's why I don't drink.
It's cognitive dissonance on a global level. The whole alcohol thing with it. The drinks industry is just. If you talk about what is evil, I mean, we've got the military-industrial complex, obviously, but, the drinks industry marketing a killer poison, particularly to young people who should no way be drinking it. I mean, you shouldn't be drinking at least until you're in your mid-20s. That's now, I think, scientifically accepted as a fact. Don't go near it because your brain's still forming. So,
what is the impetus for your first drink? Generally, do you think? Young people, what brings them to their first drink?
Well, we talk to people, and like that, people our age with children say, oh yeah, we've such and such, our son or daughter's had their first drink. They didn't like it at first, but we as if a rite of passage that your parents are giving to you. I mean, I don't think it's anywhere near as prevalent as it was in my day, but it's like something you've got to go through in order to become an adult. It's nuts, isn't it? It's completely nuts. And that sense of belonging. As I say, when I first started drinking, it was like a way of like impressing my dad, like it was ridiculous to want to be close to my dad by poisoning myself when I was, 14, 15. So I think it's that. And if everybody's doing it, it's your sheep-like tendencies, your desire to be part of the group, as you know, because you spent your life going, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Why should I? Don't want to do that, and it isolates you.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that strengthens you, because you're actually saying, I'm not just going to do something because everybody else is doing.
I remember one Friday night, I was just in my room and looking for my keyhole, and there were like 4 or 5 people outside my door, dressed up, ready to go partying that night. And it was just like looking through the peephole into a different realm, it felt. And knowing that some of the guys would be trying to hit off with the girls, because I'd talked to the guys in my halls of residence who were doing that. And one of them said to me, I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to going out, getting another woman and going, and it's just, I need to stop, but I'm just addicted to it.
Well, that was a little bit like me. To me, it was an adventure. Going out and doing stuff was was more exciting than staying at home and reading a book. And wherever I ended up, and whatever someone's sofa or floor, or I wasn't someone who'd end up sort of throwing up, but staggering, finding your way back to your house at 3 a.m, all seemed part of the fun. But I was drinking ridiculous amounts. I could easily drink a bottle of scotch on my own. When I was 21, this is mad. This is heavy. I was on the way to, well, as we touched on in my other podcast, it carried on into my 20s when I left university, and I was just going downhill fast because my tolerance for alcohol and other drugs was just spiraling. I was just, I could take more and more and more, and it became, I tossed away. I was one of those people that it, I tossed away supposedly the best years of my life in oblivion, because I was all I cared about was getting out of my mind.
And were you the norm? Was that the norm? Were your friends the same, or were you kind of like an extreme level of wanting to get out?
I'd say I was probably at the extreme level. I had a few friends that could keep up with me, and a lot of friends that were just doing serious subjects like civil engineering, and just were sensible enough to stop because they wanted to get a good degree and get a good job and get a good career. But I was doing English, and I hadn't really, I was interested in acting and writing, but as we've talked about in the other podcast, I didn't really have a set career path, so I didn't have any discipline. I hadn't learned any discipline whatsoever. And I remember in my 3rd year I was taking LSD, and I completely had no idea how much I was taking. I took way too much, and my trip went on for like 48 hours. I remember going into a supposedly important tutorial on Christ knows what it was, Middlemarch or something, and my tutor, I was sitting opposite his tutor, and he turned into a witch in front of me. The whole, and this was like probably about 36 hours after I'd taken the acid tab. The whole of the room was moving. I was like in a multicolored cave, and my tutor wasn't my tutor. It was was a witch. He's turning into a male witch. His nose was just coming towards me. His eyes were receding into his head, and I had to leave. I just ran out screaming in the middle of trying to sort of hold down a sentence. And this was like right at the end of my degree, and I sort of laughed about it with my friends, but it was like, what the hell am I doing? I was out. I wasn't really in control of my life at all. But when you're within the structure of university, you only notice it when you come out into the brutal reality, because you've got no structure to hold on to whatsoever.
So you made a point about how your drinking friends kind of go away and you end up kind of alone. Well, can you explain that point?
Well, I think that if you're used to talking to people in the pub, and this happens to a lot of people who are drinking people, your friendships they can be. I'm not saying I haven't got friends that I go to the pub with them, but I think that alcohol becomes an extra person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember once I've given up drinking loads of times. And I remember meeting a friend of mine who I'd seen for 10 years, and we went to the pub, and I wasn't drinking. I was on a period of abstinence, and I found it quite difficult to communicate with him. He was drinking, but I wasn't.
How was it difficult?
I don't know. It seemed quite sort of polite, and because we hadn't probably in our friendship gone through that sort of really that awkward getting to know you when you're having a sober conversation. We'd always been drinking, so I found it quite difficult. To chat to him. It seemed quite staid, but it was all my fault because I hadn't developed that muscle, that social skill to talk to people. I mean, I was probably in my mid-30s, so, and that's what happens with a lot of people who quit drinking. They have drinking friends, and their friends sort of immediately feel uncomfortable if you stop. If you just basically say, I'll come out with you, but I'm not drinking. They all the drinkers are immediately feel that you're weird when actually you're the sane one. You know, it's a step towards sanity, obviously, being sober and living life on life's terms and not through a filter of drunkenness. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anybody who's watching this who will say that, you know, really alcohol, unless you're young and you don't know what you're talking about, that alcohol sort of really is a glue that binds good friends together, like it's marketed in every single advert for Courvoisier or Budweiser.
You don't see people vomiting or friends fighting.
And it says drink responsibly. Very few people drink responsibly. You know, I mean, I think
that's the catchphrase. Drink
responsibly. Yeah. I mean, alcohol will atomize you.
Can you take heroin responsibly? Can you take cocaine responsibly?
No. I mean, these are horrible drugs.
But you can drink responsibly.
Well, yeah. Well,
supposedly.
It's a joke, you know, and everyone knows it's a joke. You know, everybody knows. Everybody knows that eating animals is cruel, but everyone does it. Everyone knows that alcohol is a poison that's expensive and will, in the end, fuck you up.
I mean, your first experience of drinking, you said like you don't like the taste. Right.
No, your body wants to get rid of it.
You're like, your body's reacting badly to it. Yeah. You throw up, and that's the rite of passage. But then you just kind of accustom yourself.
Then your body gets acclimatized to the poison. It goes, all right, well, okay, you're poisoning me. I can deal with it.
My liver can deal with this.
It can deal with it until it can't deal with it. You know, I think I've been very lucky. I think I have a sort of good constitution. By rights, I should have been, over the course of my life, I should be ill. I mean, I've had a health checkup last year, and I'm in very good health.
Our bodies are very accommodating to unhealthy habits.
Yeah, so
you see morbidly obese people walking around, and they've got, you know, probably high risk of heart disease and cancers, but they're still walking around doing their thing. They haven't dropped dead because the body is still holding on. You know.
Yeah, our bodies are very forgiving, and then again, if you give up, your body can, in most cases, you know, apart from this obviously serious ones, will repair itself and forgive you. But
it's amazing how poisoning yourself has become romanticized and socially accepted, normal, and fun. All those words that I guess is propaganda through social media, through adverts. Especially, you know, when you go to the cinema, there's always a advert for Cobra or Heineken or something, and you see young models on holiday by the pool, and I think I was talking about this yesterday with you, that it's a feeling, that it's advertising a feeling or a sense of belonging or a sense of love or community. Mm-hmm. That's what it's advertising to you, and you get the drink for that promise, because how do you get people to drink a poison? You have to kind of add things to add something to. I mean, most adverts, it's about things you don't need and trying to attach things that you do actually need to that thing. So community, love, happiness, all these things to things you don't need.
Which is why, as we both read it, the book Johann Hari's Lost Connections and Chasing the Scream, which is more about drugs, but Lost Connections, I thought I thought that was really hit the nail on the head. That's basically people take drugs because their life's not working. And why is their life not working? It's because they have no sense of connection, and you have no sense of community. And so what we need to do is find a way to build societies where people do feel that they have some stake in their community, and they're not isolated. And I think that's the great irony of most drugs, but certainly alcohol, is it's marketed as a drug of belonging, joining in, friends around a piano, clinking glasses, beautiful people just having a great time. But really, it fractures you. It sends you off into loneliness and impecunity. And I mean, if I worked out how much money I've spent on alcohol, that's another thing. If I totaled it up over 43 years of drinking, I mean, I've not always been, I'm certainly not. I don't class myself as a heavy drinker. I do drink now, but over the years, I mean, I could probably buy a house somewhere with it.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All the money you spent on alcohol, you could buy a house.
Probably. I mean, it's a lot of money if you think it's an expensive hobby. It's like you're looking at now £7 a pint. What can you do with £7? You could buy 2 books with that, or you add it all up over a long period. It's a lot of money. It's an expensive hobby. Like I say, it's a friend that wants to rob you and then eventually kill you. So probably not a good friend. I still flirt with him, but
So what needs to change to prevent people from like getting into the drinking habit? What needs to change in societally? Like, it feels to me like young people are always going to want to drink. But
yeah.
What is it? What would have to?
It's the normalization of madness, isn't it?
Because it's just what would.
You look at on any Friday night or Saturday night in most cities in this country. There's just people spilling out of pubs, fighting, and
men walking around in nappies.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. It's people need to be. We need to build a happier world where people don't feel the need to live for the weekend and get blind drunk and get into fights. I mean, of course, that's not everybody who drinks. Some people go out and have a nice quiet drink. Not everybody who drinks ends up.
Yeah, that's why I wanted. I had that thought, because we've been talking kind of about the extremes of what if you drink a lot, you lose relationships, your health is terrible.
That's when the drink has got control of you. I mean, that's when you have to. That's when you probably have to stop when it's impacting your loved ones. I mean, I look on it like I drink. If ever my drinking was making the people I love unhappy, and it has in the past, certainly all the things that I've done or said that I regret have been to do with having had too much to drink, generally. And times I've been stressed or anxious or miserable, I've taken it out on your mum. Normally, if I've had too much to drink, So those are the times when I've stopped. I've always stopped when I thought, oh shit, I'm negatively impacting people around me. But for a lot of people, that people don't stop when that's happening, and that's the early warning sign, because then you'll end up losing those people that care about you, and that's what I'm talking about. Alcohol will soothe you into a life of total isolation, unless you're very careful.
I think. I mean, what I'm thinking about is young people, and why I would advise other young people to not drink is simply because you're still young, your brain's still developing. And you've got skills you've got to grow and develop, and you shouldn't be taking shortcuts. When your brain's still developing and you're still learning and growing, you should try to improve your social skills sober and try to feel whole sober.
It's exactly right. And it's not just the health aspect.
No.
Those years from like 18 to 26, you're building your whole existence. That it may not seem like it, and it doesn't. You don't have to put added pressure on young people, but these are the years where you're working out who you are and what you want to do. If you're out of your mind, you can't do that. Obviously, you can't put the building blocks down of your existence when you haven't even got any building blocks if you're drunk or
and
stoned.
friendships are I think friendships are really, really important at that time. And do you really just want friends who are your drinking buddies, and that's enough for you, like people you can banter around with and when you drink? Surely you want closer, like some really close friends that can be with you for a while.
Well, intimacy is.
You lose intimacy, I think. It's false intimacy, I think, when you drink.
Yes, it is. It's like, you just tell people you love them all the time, or you end up sort of being promiscuous and then waking up with someone and go, oh my God. And then you're really embarrassed. You don't even know their name, or they don't know your name, and you wouldn't get on in normal life. I mean, all this kind of chips away a little bit at your soul, I think, what it did for me. And you're using alcohol to mask just feeling bad about yourself. You don't feel good about yourself. We all want to be on this planet, and all we really want is to feel peace and to feel okay with being on this.
So do you think we drink to feel okay?
Well, I think that once you've had the first drink, I think most people are like drinking in order to feel as okay as they did before they ever drank. And we all have childhoods, and we all have problems, and we're all conditioned. We have the voice in our head that from our childhood tells us we're shit when maybe we've had, difficult parents or we have a difficult family life. But you have to know that the alcohol isn't going to solve that problem. It will shut the voice up. But the only thing you're going to do is distance yourself from that conditioning and realize there is something beyond your conditioning that will save you if you tap into it.
Just being able to tap into awareness, consciousness, and being, which you can't do when you're drinking because you just inebriate yourself and you just kind of, you feel like you're peaceful because it's like you're going unconscious. You're not fully there. You're just going to a different.
You can say that we drink to relax, but it doesn't really relax you. It just switches off.
It's like taking sleeping pills instead of having a proper sleep.
Yeah, but then for most people, one drink is never enough. One drink is never enough for me. I when I drink, it's like 4 pints at least. I can't. I always have to have more, and this is dangerous stuff. But in the meantime, I'm I can go 2 weeks and I don't go to the pub and I'm fine. But it's certainly if you're able to snap out of that, particularly when you're young, the impulse to annihilate yourself. There's a self-destructive impulse in a lot of young people, particularly young men.
Why?
Well,
why do we want to self-destruct and be unhealthy?
Well, again, I think a lot of it comes down to that Darwinian impulse to show how tough you are by, driving your car fast, or it's I can't remember what the actual term is, but it's look at me, I can take smacking myself up a bit. Why do guys have tattoos? Look how much pain I can endure. I've got tattoos on every part of my body. I can handle pain. My genes are good. Come and replicate your genes with mine. I don't know. There's a Darwinian impulse in it, but I don't know. It's
we need to romanticize being healthy.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I was young, when I was your age, I did nothing that was healthy. I didn't run. I ate shit. I drank. I smoked. There was no education. It seemed like it should be obvious that all the things I was doing was bad for me.
Well, also again, it goes back to we're not taught the right things in education. Well, maybe a little bit about what's healthy, but not properly. Proper like a whole module on eating healthy and healthy lifestyle habits like exercising.
But I was probably aware of all that. But if you told me that when I was 23, I'd have just told you I probably told you where to get off. I mean, I wasn't interested. Crazy.
What I like about Alan Carr's book is it really just quite in a clinical way just talks to you. What does alcohol actually do to you moment to moment? Let's get rid of all the myths. What are you doing? What are you putting into your body? What's happening step by step? And I think that's a really important thing to learn for me before, when I make my decision not to drink. And for people who are thinking about drinking or maybe are drinking.
I would say anybody who thinks they're drinking too much and wants to stop, I would recommend those Alan Carr books. I mean, it sounds hollow for me because I still drink, but I would read those books, rather than the willpower method, rather than AA, where you want to drink, but you're having to get through a day without drinking, and you're having to celebrate. I'm 50 days, I'm 3 months, I'm 10 years without drink, but you really, part of you still wants to drink. Alan Carr will just take all the reasons why you think you want to drink and smash them all up. And if you read it with real, if you're serious about reading it, you'll come out of there and never drink again. I read it, but I always kind of thought, well, yeah, he's right, but I'm still going to go down the pub. So call me a hypocrite.
He says to keep drinking while reading the book.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to say stop drinking. He just wants to explain everything that's wrong with it. So you have a full armory of reasons not to drink. and no reason to drink. I think that's the key. Is like finding, because there's always the niggle of, I might be missing out, or I'm not having as much fun as my peers. But he just kind of irons all of that out, so that you can't find any reason to pick up a glass. You just know there's no reason.
And all of it comes down to one of your big viral podcasts about Blaise Pascal sitting peacefully alone in your own room. All of it comes down to being scared of that. Why are we scared to sit alone without a drink, without any drugs, on our own, in a room, listening to silence or reading a book or listening to music? If you can do that, if you can build yourself a safe haven wherever you are and go, I'm all right, this is okay. And the thoughts in my head may be raging from our childhoods with our parents telling us we were no good or whatever trauma had happened to us. But that trauma happened in the past. It's not happening to you now. If you're sitting safely in a room or in a park peacefully, you don't need anything. You don't need a single thing. And it's learning that skill, which I think is really important.
I think the key is to take that peace from being alone and bringing that into social situations. That's, for me, that's why, if I, you don't want to say why I'm doing it, but it's to feel grounded in myself, feel comfortable in my own body and skin, so that when I'm with people, I'm not questioning, why am I saying this? I'm feeling uncomfortable and feeling tense.
And you don't need a drink in your hand to talk to people.
Yeah, because I feel okay in myself for the conversation to flow, and to be able to judge if this person is going to be a good friend or not, because I'm okay in myself.
I'm 57, and if I'm ever in a social situation, when I don't know people, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to get out of here. I find it really difficult. And even if I'm a playwright, even when I've got a play on, and so the people, it's not like everyone knows who I am, so I'm not having to go, hi, I've done this. I still feel really anxious because I haven't, developed the skills that you're talking about from an early age. I'm obviously much better at it now, and I can get by it without a drink, but I much prefer a bottle of beer in my hand while I'm doing it, even now, because I don't really enjoy it. I am basically socially anxious, but your social anxiety was more honest because you hadn't masked it with alcohol as I did from 15, going back to how we started this podcast. I was probably the same as you, but because I was drinking, I never went through the pain. I never went through the pain of having to solve that problem. I just sort of drank my way through it and continued to drink my way through it and smoke my way through it and snort my way through it, rather than sorting myself out from an earlier age, which is why I'm very pleased that you've decided to do that. It's the right thing to do. As I said, I wouldn't go near it if I could relive my life. And having 3 kids, none of whom are drug takers, is, to me, I've sort of slightly improved on existence.
I mean, we'll do a whole episode on this, but the first time I took a drug was magic truffles in Amsterdam.
Yes, that was great,
so
because I was with you.
Yes, so we can talk about that another time. But it was the first time I'd felt out of control. So it was very terrifying, because I guess alcohol is a kind of a bit of a lighter version of that, feeling a bit out of control. But with psilocybin, you feel like you're just following the truffles. Well, but I don't want to get too deep into what truffles are.
Everything outside of yourself is moving and disintegrating, and all the boundaries between you and everything else and everyone else seem to dissipate, and your ego gets completely annihilated, which can be terrifying for people. Whereas with alcohol, its ego is enhanced and exacerbated and amplified. But with psilocybin and psychedelics, your ego is gradually destroyed.
So why is it, do you think, that alcohol and cigarettes are the 2 legal drugs, and psilocybin and weed? I mean, I can see why cocaine and heroin are outlawed, but we both read Chasing the Scream, which explains why they shouldn't be outlawed. Simply because people are going to be addicted to them anyway. Take them. People who want them should be able to have them in a safe clinical setting,
and then help to get off them
instead of the illegal means they get them, which is like with lots of added chemicals and crap that makes them actually feel really worse than just the neat drug. But why is it, do you think, that the society has chosen alcohol as the drug of choice?
Because a lot of people are making a lot of money out of it. I mean, the same.
Did you not think we can make money out of the magic truffle business?
Well, for one thing, to make nature against the law, as Bill Hicks has said, is like paranoid and insane, isn't it? Something that grows naturally on the face of the earth, and in my experience of psilocybin, there's nothing but good for you. You know, one person might, you know, think that they can fly and jump off a tall building, but I think the deaths from psilocybin,
I think that they're greatly exaggerated.
It's about one, I should think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no. It's cognitive dissonance, isn't it? When alcohol is destroying communities, destroying families, destroying everything, and few people basically eating a mushroom and then laughing as the walls move in and out for about 5 minutes, and just having a sort of very profound spiritual experience is what I've done every time I've had mushrooms. Why that is, I mean, the truffles aren't illegal, but the actual mushrooms are. I mean, that's just absurd in itself.
Well, the truffles are illegal in the UK, aren't they? No,
I think
unless you buy them online.
No, I think the actual truffles are legal in European countries. It's the actual mushroom. So it's the sclerotia
Why is it that one part of the mushroom is illegal?
The part that grows underground is the truffle, which is legal, and the part that pops up out of the earth is illegal. It makes no sense. It's a nonsense.
But I read The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, and he asks that question: why is it that a drug that inebriates you and you don't have anything profound come out of it, and it just makes you feel, you know, you get hangovers.
Well, look at the cost.
Why is that the drug of choice?
Well, because the government makes, I don't know what percentage, every time you buy a £7 pint. I don't know how much the government gets. £5. You know, a pint of beer costs probably about 10p to make into the profit.
So the profit
and look at the cost of the alcohol. The cost to the taxpayer is enormous. I don't know what is billions of pounds to the NHS, alcohol-related diseases, the violence, you know, what the police have to do. And then, of course, we've got the decriminalisation of if we decriminalised heroin, for example, or Class A drugs, the authorities can be completely in control of the supply, and it wouldn't have to go to criminal gangs. Most burglaries are from people who are trying to fuel their drug habits. You've got prostitution. It's women who are got on drugs in order to, you know, have to sort of pay back their pimps. Everything is. If you decriminalised it, you could get hold of the problem. And to me, it just seems like it's as obvious as having assisted dying. Or
well, what I was going to say about Doors of Perception. That's a good point about the monetary thing, but mescaline was what Huxley takes, and he explains that the reason potentially why it's not legal is that it's a very long experience, so it kind of like you have it once and that's it, so it's not very profitable, and also it's kind of like it kind of is life changing. You know, it's in the 60s when people were taking psilocybin and mescaline and LSD and didn't want to fight in Vietnam. The reason was a lot of it was because of the drugs and the Eastern philosophy and the ways of thinking.
Nixon came very hard down on LSD and psilocybin because he thought people weren't going to go and fight in his war.
Research in psilocybin and LSD was shut down because of because the citizens weren't complying with what the government wanted.
When you take a drug that makes you feel that you're at one with the universe and at one with other human beings and at one with all the plants and the rocks and the stars, the last thing you want to do is get on an airplane, go over to Vietnam and shoot a load of farmers.
Because that requires a sense of otherness, of a sense of me, us and them.
Yeah.
But psilocybin breaks all of those barriers.
And you have to be a conformist. You have to like rules. You have to want to be told what to do in order to do that. And these are the positive aspects of drugs. They can open you up to realizing you don't have to do what your government tells you. You don't have to do what anybody tells you. Your first responsibility is your responsibility with existence, with universe, with nature, and with your neighbors, and not with people who are governing you and basically want to manipulate you and get you to fight in illegal wars. So
And also, there's a similarity between mescaline, LSD, psilocybin, and alcohol in the sense of connection. But there's a different kind of connection, because with alcohol, the connection it's not a deep connection. It's a kind of a superficial, like, we're all just a bit inebriated and we're all just saying whatever, and we feel like we can say anything because we've lost that barrier.
And nobody's really listening to anybody else.
Yeah.
There's no genuine listening.
But it's not a profound connection that you get with psilocybin, where you feel not only connected with humans but just with existence in the universe.
And like you said, you've done it once, and you'd probably never do it again. So where's the profit share in that? No one's going to be making any money out of it. You don't need to do it more than once. I've done it a few times, but I probably won't ever do it again.
Well, I think I'll do it. I might do it when I'm 25, because if I'd known that it wasn't when my brain was developing.
Imagine looking forward to being 25. When I look back, I can't even remember it. But yeah, I mean, it's. So
I mean, Huxley says, why can't the pharmaceutical industry, the drug industry, manufacture a drug like mescaline or psilocybin or LSD that's a short lifespan? So you take it and you have a really amazing experience for like an hour, and then you come out of it, you're just back to your work.
Yeah, well, look at cannabis and psilocybin in the medical industry. They've both been proven to have nothing but good.
So much coming out now.
They are plants.
PTSD, depression, OCD.
Indeed,
helping.
Taken in the right way and with supervision, these things are saving lives. They're totally beneficial. Alcohol really can't make any such claims.
I don't recommend the book How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, also a Netflix series, which is going into all the research that's been done on psilocybin for depression and PTSD.
That's excellent, and it's an excellent watch.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, with alcohol, you come out of it with a hangover, regretting what you've said.
You feel anxious. You wake up going, "Oh, what did I say? I must have upset."
Paranoid.
And your go goes, well, I hope that person was drunk enough that they didn't remember what I said, because I can't remember what I said. But when I was your age, I used to be phoning people up the next day, and go,
what happened last
was
night?
I all right? Did I piss you off? And you get paranoid, your anxiety levels. That's the strange thing, is you might be feeling anxious, so you think, well, I'll drink. But the anxiety levels, I can't remember, it's to do with the GABA, all the different chemicals in your brain that get flipped around. So the anxiety that you lose through having a drink rebounds on you fivefold the next day, and that's what what they call it, hangxiety, I think is the term, when you've got hangover anxiety. I
think that's a red flag to me. If a drug continues to affect your life after you've taken it, then surely that's not great. Like, you should be able to have an isolated experience. And once I'd taken the truffles, I was back to normal. But I could just like meditate and think about the experience. But it wasn't like still affecting me in a negative way at all. It was a isolated experience, which is what you want. You want your trip to have a beginning and an end.
Yeah, and it had a profound positive effect.
A profound positive effect. But with alcohol, it's you have a negative aftermath, and then you do it again, and it's a vicious negative cycle of being inebriated and then feeling anxious.
I'm glad you're realizing that without ever having to go through it yourself. Probably you've seen me go through it and go, what are you doing today, Dad? And I go, it's a hangover day, so nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And then you go, well, that is a waste of a day. I don't mind hangovers that much. I actually find, as a writer, that the depression that I sometimes feel when I'm hungover, I actually channel it into a creative sense, but that's probably a cop-out.
So let's talk about you a bit, about your drinking, and with everything that we've just said, all that being said, you continue drinking because you see you benefit from it, you enjoy it, there's something good about it, right?
I like, for example, Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. I go to Amsterdam once a year. I don't go to Amsterdam for the reasons a lot of English people go to Amsterdam, which is to sit in coffee shops and get stoned. I go to Amsterdam because I love the pubs.
The cafes,
the Browns Bar.
Browns bars.
And I sit in the Browns bars. There's nothing happier in my life than sitting in the Browns Bar, either with your mum or a friend or you.
With a beer.
With a cold beer. If I'm on my own, with a book. Just sitting there, getting slightly pissed over a long period of time. Now, you could say that's pretty sad, and I'm sure...
I'm not saying
no,
that.
No, but no, you, I'm saying one, can't you go, like your sister said, oh, Dad, why can't you just go and sit in that pub and drink sap water? Well, one, they wouldn't...
Sparkling water. We don't.
Yeah, you couldn't have free drinks, but there's something about... I enjoy getting slightly inebriated. I still enjoy it, and until it destroys my life or threatens to destroy my life, or my health. And I don't think at the moment that it is. Again, hardened AA members would go, yeah, he's just deluding himself. The drug is,
and Alan Carr would say,
it's still controlling, and they may well be right. They may well be right.
But the thing is, it's for you. But you wouldn't say generally that, if you drink while in a brown spa in Amsterdam, getting slowly inebriated and pissed, you have a better experience than someone who's drinking sparkling water.
No, I don't, because I've done it with you, and you're drinking tea and sparkling water.
And you don't think, I'm just having
you're having a nice chat. I'm having a nice chat. I'm just enjoying having a nice chat with you whilst getting slightly pissed. Now, yeah, I mean,
because if I think about it, like when we have long chats, there generally would be in a pub if we were me and you going out. And then you slowly getting...
Well, it's for a change of scene as well, isn't it? I mean...
Because I do appreciate when we have long chats where you're not drinking, because I value that.
Like now.
Well, yeah, I value that way more for me. I still enjoy chatting to you, and because you're still pretty much the same. Just going a little bit glassy-eyed. But I want to make the most of you, and I feel like making the most of you is talking to you when you're fully sober, for a long period of time. So I value that more.
Well, I can do both. I like to think I can ride two bicycles: sober chat and slightly pissed chat. But it's like, to me, it's can I live my life with what thing I find pleasurable? I've got to this age, I don't want to be ill. If it's making me ill, you can tell if it be making me ill, or I humiliate myself once too often, then I'll stop. I do not find it difficult to not drink. We could go for 2 or 3 weeks without drinking. I never crave a drink. I just kind of like the slightly different view of reality that booze gives you. So, but I'm perfectly willing to say it's a delusion.
Well, I kind of think like, what do the thought experiment. If I were to say to you, you can no longer drink, that's it. That's a fact. You're not drinking anymore. How does that create a lump in your throat? Does that make you feel a little like, oh?
Well, if you were putting a stark choice, it would be the easiest thing in the world. If it was like your health or
no choice. I'm just saying, no, you can't drink.
But I'd have to know why.
Well, the reality is now you can't drink.
Like that, I had some kind of thing in my body that reacted badly to it and made me throw up. It wouldn't be a problem. It really wouldn't.
No, what I'm saying is, you're saying like, oh, because I feel ill and I'm doing it for a reason. But if I were to say, just you're not drinking anymore, just like that's it.
Well, I'd have to know why you were telling me that.
You'd have to know why.
I'd go,
you won't be able to be like,
who are you telling me how to live?
No. It's like I push a button and you can't drink.
Well, fine. Well, that would be fine. If I had no choice over it, then
yeah, that's it.
As you know, I've had I had insomnia for a long period of time. It's got, sometimes it comes and goes. It's been pretty bad, and I thought, well, Christ, it might be to do with drinking, because it's throwing my sleep patterns out. So I give up drinking for 2 or 3 weeks. If, for example, I thought that was the cause of my insomnia, it wouldn't be a problem. Sleep or drink, I choose sleep any day of the week.
I think if you can stop any of your habits and think to yourself really clearly, do you know what? I could stop this habit right now and never do it again for the rest of my life, and that would be okay, and I won't be craving that thing. Then you know that you've got a healthy relationship with that thing. Like, for example, coffee is a drug. Okay, that's a bad example because I don't drink coffee. I drink decaf. Let me think of a good example of something I could stop. I guess like sugar, chocolate and stuff. I mean, I have had periods where I have stopped eating chocolates and sweets, but I actually do think that I could just stop and have no problem stopping for the rest of my life and enjoying healthy foods. But just I can enjoy a cream egg or a chocolate bar, and that's fine.
The occasional wickedness is okay. I think
that's okay. That's but I know that that's that question you've got to ask. People have got to ask themselves: could I stop this now and for the rest of my life, and be okay? And if you really think, that's going to be really hard, then maybe I could do it.
Relationship with drink. I know that I could do it. I mean, I've stopped for a year at a time, 6 months here, 4 months there, and I could do it. I mean, particularly as the summer is coming, I have a great pleasure sitting on our outside bit with your mum, having a beer, and with the sun, and I could enjoy the sun on my face sitting out there without a beer. But I somehow find it's a little bit of a pleasure.
I do find it really. I've got one person I want to talk about for a second. Alan Watts. He was an alcoholic and a womanizer, and he died because he was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. But he was also someone who talked about Eastern philosophy, meditation, spirituality, being present, dealing with stress, anxiety. He was very lucid with that. It seemed like he understood it, but he was an alcoholic.
We couldn't live it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's that is quite hard to get wrap your head around that someone can have their lifestyle can be completely averse to their whole kind of philosophy of life that they might spout but actually not live.
Well, like Eckhart Tolle, who eats animals.
And I guess with Eckhart Tolle, he's not going to die from drugs like Alan Watts did from being alcoholic. But yeah, Eckhart Tolle again, the contradiction of talking about peace and the end of the ego and contentment. He does talk in A New Earth about the suffering in factory farms. He does make a comment on that, but
well, if you're contributing
that's just a comment,
to it,
it seems, because he eats meat.
If you can't change the way you live, I mean, we're all full of contradictions, I mean, going back to alcohol, there's a fine line between enjoying our little tiny moment of existence, and can we enjoy it? Can we do the odd thing that's not good for us without it destroying us completely? I don't know. At the moment, for me, I will continue to go to the pub once in a while until such time as you tell me I can't.
Okay, I'd like to go to my notes. I think we've actually covered a lot of these questions I've got here on my notes.
I think we've done quite a lot of chatting. It's been a bit meandery.
No, it's been a really good conversation. So, if you don't drink, what do you do? How do you spend what other activities?
That's a question for you, isn't it? I mean, I think that for most people and for myself, I'd give that we have to find other things that are more productive to do with your time. Drinking
maybe more enjoyable.
Drinking takes up an awful lot of time and money. Having done it for all my adult life, on and off, if you can find other things that you like doing with that time, then that's you're in a far better position.
Yeah, well, I mean, when people were out drinking on a Friday night, I wouldn't even be thinking it's a Friday night. I'll just be at my laptop writing a video about being alone. That would be my weekend, by making videos about whatever philosophy.
When I used to think, go on, Stanley, go out with them, not go and get drunk with them, but just go out with them. But I knew that you would not enjoy it. So
well, I did occasionally go out with people when they were drinking, but it was okay. It was nice enough. But I tend to not really enjoy group chatting in groups because you don't really get anywhere. Sometimes you don't get. What I end up doing is I find one person that I'm clicking with slightly, and then I just kind of ignore everyone else. And I'm just like, well, why can't we better just one-on-one.
One-on-one is always for me the great number. I just find that the more people are in a group, the more it sort of correlates. The more people are in a group, the less the conversation becomes interesting, because and the fewer there are, the more obviously the more intimate and interesting the chat can be.
So do you think that there's a correlation between being sober and higher quality conversations with people?
Well, if you'd know more than me, but if you're sober in a group and you go out, it all starts all right, and then gradually people start getting a bit louder and then a bit louder, and people start talking more and more bollocks. I mean, I've been a bollocks talker all my life when drinking, and so the people who are not drinking just end up, if they've got any sense, just making their excuses and leaving. Go, fine, off you go. You're all going to get pissed, talk bollocks, get off with each other and have a fight or whatever you're going to do. I'm just going to go home and read a book. Perfectly wise decision. I think a lot of people who are certainly middle-aged look back and think, Christ, if I'd done that myself, I'd have freed up an awful lot of my time and probably had a more constructive, creative life. I mean, I wonder what, if I hadn't been a drinker. I mean, I'm an all right, relatively successful playwright, but I'm pretty sure that if I had given up the drink and the drugs, I'd have been far more productive and probably written better plays. But there's no point looking back. No point regretting. We are what we are.
I think a good pointer is to question, why do you want to escape from this moment? Whether it be through social media, video games, movies, drinking, be on your phone. All of these.
What's wrong with now?
Externals.
What's wrong with this moment now?
Why can't you be with this person without a substance? You just question, why is a substance part of our relationship? Why is it such an integral part of our relationship? Can our relationship survive without this substance? And what's nice about my friend that I'm going to be moving in with, that we haven't, all our conversations have always been sober.
Yeah.
And he does drink, but that it's just been through developing our relationship in a sober way, which is really nice, because it means it's more authentic and more authentic, less like nights we didn't know what was going on.
Well,
saying stuff that hurt each other's feelings,
Yeah, and it will last longer because its foundations are based in truth, not in beer.
But, yeah, I mean, but you've got beer friends who you also spend time with sober. Like, you've got a friend who you walk with as well.
Yeah, but we always go to the pub.
But drinking is part of that.
If I suddenly said, I mean, he's been a friend for 35 years, but if I suddenly said I'm not going to the pub after the walking trip, he probably, I don't know, it would be weird.
That's that's interesting, isn't it?
Because it's drinking and walking in the country, which is one of my favourite things, and then not going to the pub afterwards is a bit strange for me. It feels a bit odd. So because that's part, it's part of my own. I've been habituated to doing that, and so is he. And I've had a friend now who's died. Our relationship was always in the pub. But we had a great relationship.
This is David Pownell.
Yeah, whether I don't know what our relationship would have been like if we weren't. I mean, we didn't get drunk.
But it felt like an authentic relationship?
Yeah, we never got drunk, blind drunk. We
Yeah.
just had 2 or 3 pints in the pub and chatted about stuff, and that was a pleasure that we had. I mean, I'm sure we could have done it without going to the pub, but it was just
exactly.
We both like pubs.
But if you can take it away and the relationship is still as good, then
Well, I'll never know now because he's dead.
Yeah.
But,
if you had an alternate reality where you never drank together,
yeah.
would it have fizzled out? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Or maybe it would have been better.
I don't know, because we had a real meeting of the minds, and I don't, in my life, I don't have that many people that I really see me and get me, and vice versa with him. He's older than me, but it was a real kind of two writers sort of bonding, but pubs was definitely part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've covered quite a bit here. So
Cheers.
I'm
off to nurse my hangover now.
Yeah, currently you're having a hangover right now.
I have a very moderate hangover. After all that
I feel
about giving up drink.
nice and clear and
good for you.
Stable.
Good for you.
So, yeah, thanks a lot, and
see you next time.
See you next time, where we might be talking about our magic travel trips.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And also, you went on loads of trips afterwards, so that's a little hint.
Yeah,
of what's to come. All right, cheers.
Bye. Oh, was that all right?
Yeah.